know I've said this before, but I love microbrands. The reason why I love microbrands is they are willing to do something a little bit different that a typical large watch manufacturer just aren't willing to do. And every once in a while, you come across a microbrand that has a watch that's just special, unique, but really beautiful. And that's how I feel about the Echo Neutra Averau. A few years ago, when Echo Neutra released its Cortina 1956 watch, I was immediately drawn to it. It looked a lot like something that would have come straight out of a Bell & Ross catalog. And some other watch caught my attention. I put that watch on the back burner and forgot about it. About 12 months ago, I had an opportunity to get this awesome field watch from Echo Neutra called the Averau. And since I was already interested in the brand, I immediately jumped on the opportunity. It's a very cool watch with a lot of personality, despite the very average case. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's discuss the first two elephants in the room, the name and then the extra complication that is really 100% unnecessary on a watch. I did chapter this video, so feel free to forward through the chapters if you want to skip to the watch dimensions, how it wears, and all my thoughts on the watch. All right, so let's get started. The name, Echo Neutra. When I first read this name, I immediately thought to myself, I don't really think twice about having some person's name on my wrist, so what's the big deal? Well, for one, it's not anybody's name, so there's that. So I had to go to the website to see where they came up with the name Echo Neutra. Yeah. Okay, without any luck there, here's just the definition. Echo. A, the repetition of a sound caused by reflection of sound waves. Or B, the sound due to such reflection. Neutra. Well, I'm not sure. Neutral? Averau. Okay, I got this. Mount Averau is the highest mountain in the Novello group of the Dolomites, which is even explained on the website too. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Regardless, wearing a watch that says Echo Neutra can't be worse than wearing one that says Carl F. Bucherer, Christopher Ward, or Raymond Wheel, right? Okay, well, moving right along, let's discuss the completely useless complication on this watch, the Moonphase. Underneath this beautiful domed crystal, and that has AR treatment on the underside, by the way, is a complication that you don't often see, especially on a field watch, a Moonphase complication. And not any Moonphase complication. This is a unique layout that I've only seen one other time, and that was on an IWC perpetual calendar, like Flieger watch, that's about 30 times the price of this watch. I've always thought about having a Moonphase, but I never had one. I thought they'd be cool, even though I could care less about what phase of the moon we are at on a daily basis. I just always thought the complication looked pretty cool, but on a dress watch. But somehow Echo Neutra added this complication on a field watch, and it looks really cool. Actually, the only other field watch that I know that I can think of at top of mind that has a Moonphase is a Glycine Combat, and you don't see them that often. Now, do not ask me how to set a Moonphase. I know we can pull it out in the second, pull out the crown in the second position and then move the moon, but I don't know how to set it. I do know there is a specific website that will explain to you the different phases of the moon, or you can Google it, and it'll specifically show you how to set a Moonphase complication with diagrams and everything. Or even you could go to the Echo Neutra website and they will show you the different moon phases as well. But to be frank, I could really care less. All I really care about in this case, and in probably any case of owning a Moonphase on any watch, is it just looks so cool. And the way it's displayed on the Averau makes me stop and stare. And probably like you, I have a clock, in a digital display format on every one of my computer screens on my desk. It's on my phone. And the only reason I even look down at my wrist is to gaze at the mechanical piece of beauty that happens to be on my wrist that day. And with this Moonphase complication, I find myself staring at my watch more than most timepieces that are on my wrist. And that's a fact. Okay, now let's get to that case design and discuss the good and the bad. Let me start by saying that the case is not bad. It's a crowd-pleasing size. The case is a 39mm case. The lug to lug is 46mm. The lug width is 20mm. And the thickness of the watch is 13.7mm. And it has a slightly domed sapphire crystal, so that's including the crystal. Yeah, it's a little thick, but it doesn't wear super thick. Like some other watch brands, they hide the thickness in the caseback, which is smart. And that caseback is probably a little thicker, more than likely, due to its housing the Sellita SW280-01, which is an Averau grade movement from Sellita. It beats at 28,800 VPH and has 41 hours of power reserve. I assume that kick-ass Moonphase complication adds a bit of thickness to this movement, hence the thicker case. And yeah, it's a field or adventure style watch with 100 meters of water resistance. The case isn't ugly, I just find it a little boring. The case is all brushed with some nice polished bevels that run down the lugs of the case. Looking at the side of the watch, the lugs turn down nicely to hug your wrist. The crown has really nice knurling on it, but it's 5.6mm. It's pretty small, and it's not the easiest to manipulate or screw down, even with that knurling. At least the side of the crown is nicely engraved. The bezel that surrounds the slightly domed sapphire crystal is really well done. There's polishing on top of the bezel and also on the sides of the bezel with some brushed facets. It's a really nice mix and match of finishing overall. And the polished top of the bezel gives the watch some nice, sporty, but Italian flair. I want to talk about the dial of the watch beneath the sapphire crystal. So if you haven't noticed already, the cardinal positions of 12, 3, 6, and 9 have these large luminescent blocks protruding out of the dial. I have to say, every morning when my office is pitch black and before I turn on the lights, my watch box is near the light switch. And the only two watches that have decent visibility when it's pitch black out is my Marathon GSAR, which is tritium, and this Echo Neutra Averau. These lume blocks are still glowing after a night in the dark. Now let me be clear, as you're probably looking at this dial, it's far from perfect. Actually, it's pretty busy. With all the text on the dial, I'm really not sure about the automatic that's printed to the right of the 9 o'clock lume block. I understand the explanation of having the north and south hemispheres on the Moonphase complication, but maybe one of you could explain this, that 2649 MSLM on the dial. Maybe I'm missing something, but I'm not sure why it's at 7:30 and what it even is. Does anybody know? Jump down in the comments and let me know if you have a clue. I'm going to feel silly if it's something so simple that it flew right over my head. One of the things you may have noticed is at the 3 o'clock, there's a date complication, which is circular and it's nicely color matched with the dial. Blends in nicely with the hour markings on the inside of the dial because the font also matches the font of the hours. That's a really, really nice high-end touch. If you take a really close look on the outside track of the dial, there are minute markings in very small font. The handset is unique. The hour hand is a stubby little arrow. The minute hand is a pencil style, but I love how they are painted white. which contrasts nicely with the black dial. If you've ever seen some of my videos in the past, you know how I love the legibility of a black dial with white hands. The second hand, it does disappear into the darkness of the matte black dial, but the Echo Neutra symbolic colors of the red, white, red at the tip of the second hand is pretty mesmerizing to watch as it circles the dial. If you turn the watch over and you look at the case back, it's a screw down case back that has a very nice embossed logo. It's etched fairly deep, and inside of the circular pattern is bead blasted right in the middle, which is a really nice subtle touch displaying the higher quality finishing of the watch itself. Let's talk a little bit about the bracelet that comes with the watch. If you've ever owned a German Sinn watch with an H-link bracelet, you'll know how comfortable they are. The H-link bracelet on this watch is of similar construction. We have some screw-in pins in the links, but where the bracelet disappoints are the male end links. It ends up expanding the total lug-to-lug distance to 50.7 millimeters. But because the lugs turn down so dramatically, I still think this watch will well wear. It's going to wear well even on smaller wrists. My wrist is 7.25 inches, but below that, I think it's going to wear fine. But where the bracelet really falls short is the very cheap clasp. Even though the clasp is milled, the top of the clasp is just a very inexpensive pressed metal. It does have a double button deployment with a fold over clasp for security, so it's going to do the trick. It's going to be secure on your wrist, especially while you're adventuring or fielding around. It's just not very flattering and doesn't live up to the rest of the quality of the watch itself. But what I really love is the additional supplied two-piece nylon strap. You can see on the polished buckle with polished keepers, this is how I choose to wear the watch, on the nylon strap. It's so comfortable. And with the black strap and polished hardware, it gives the watch a very premium look, especially for a field watch. Now, you may have noticed that on the strap, it has the branding. But don't worry, if you don't like it, you just flip it over like me, and then you won't even see the branding. Because this watch has 20 millimeter lugs and a black dial, it does go with so many straps. I really wish it had drilled lug holes. Frankly, I'm really surprised more people have not reviewed these watches. The build quality of this timepiece is on par with some independent watch brands like Christopher Ward, or even some Swiss brands like Maurice Lacroix. What you get for the price is pretty unbeatable. I've spent almost a year with this watch, and now more than ever, I'm excited to explore other models. Speaking of price, if you're interested in the Echo Neutra Averau, they're available on their website from about $800 to $900 US, depending if you want the bracelet or not, which, why not, for an extra $100. But they even have another Moonphase complication called the Big Moon, which seems to be their newest design and unique way of displaying the Moonphase, which I think is pretty cool. But what I'm really interested in is one of the 1956 Cortina models, more specifically the chronograph or the GMT. Look, whatever this watch is doing, I hope they continue to do more of it, and they continue to bring us unique and new ways of telling time. If you look at watch brands like Christopher Ward, they seem to have a really great formula that they're following. In recent years, they've been bringing us watch enthusiasts some really great watches like the Belcanto or the C65 chronograph I have here in hand. I think we should be keeping an eye on Echo Neutra. They're doing some pretty great things. Well, if you made it this far, let me introduce myself. My name is Blake, and I'm a bit of a watchaholic. And if you've made it this far, you're a watchaholic too. Hey, make sure you click like, subscribe to the video, and leave a comment down below if you've had any experiences with the Echo Neutra. I really am enjoying this Averau. And thank you for spending your time with me. I know it's the most important and valuable thing to you, so thanks for spending with me. I'll see you guys and gals in the next video.